kind of putting Inteleon with Aqua Bolt into play and try to utilize that as an attack. So it'll be really interesting to see which route these players go to. Another thing to note as well, we're coming off of a lunch break, and this is a pivotal point in the tournament. You're now at 3-0. You felt really good going to lunch break. You have some time to think, prepare yourself. That mental is important as you transition into that match. You can either go in and be like, all right, I'm determined, I'm ready to do this, or you kind of relax. And the moment you relax, the moment you take your foot off the pedal, things go out of control. And we've seen that time and time again throughout the history of the Pokemon trading card game.
Yeah, the players are calm, and hopefully it is confidence and not just a little post-meal sluggishness. But I think that once these cards are dealt, once those starting actives are selected, the players are just going to dial right back in.
Yeah, so in this mirror match, going first, very important. And I'm sure both players are going to want to be going first. Price cards going out. Let's take a look at some interesting counts. Couple of Drizzile pieces in there. Oh, okay, 2 Drizzile right off the bat. Palkia V-Star as well, unavailable. So a little bit of those pieces being the prizes could halt the early setup and consistency of both of these decks. Only time is going to tell. We're ready to get into things. Round number 4 between Kai Wainwright and Hiroki Yano. Here we go. We're ready to kick things off.
Round 4, let's go. There's the fist bump and the reveal. Palkia to start and Sobble to start. Kai's going to be a little bit behind because of those Drizziles in the prizes. A little bit less flexibility. Going to be relying heavily, a little bit more on those top decks, rather. Already Capacious Bucket opening up for Hiroki. The classic, you know, get the water energies out of the deck to thin, set up for the Radiant Greninja, etc., etc. I'm really waiting to see if we can hopefully fish out a Battle VIP pass somehow, get that explosive start here in the first game. Getting that momentum is going to be so important.
Yeah, this list over here that Hiroki is playing seems to be a little bit different than the list that Isaiah Bradner and that group popularized during NAIC, the deck that plays 4 Battle VIP Pass. Hiroki not playing 4 copies, it seems. Really just values the ability to have more slots later on. Battle VIP Pass, the best item card to play if you're going first, but the caveat, can't play it if you're not going first on any other turn of the game. So it looks like what Hiroki decided, if I'm going to play this deck, I'm going to value having some more consistent turns after the fact. But oh boy, this hand has 4 water energy and a Sobble. I think there's another base bucket. And yeah, no Palkia coming down turn 1. That is a big time miss. And the door's open to Kai. Having the Palkia down means that doesn't matter how good your opponent's turn is next. This Palkia is going to be safe, and you're going to be able to put pressure on and really take control of the wheel going into the next turn. Especially
in the mirror. Having the chance to set up your attacker first is going to be attack after attack. Makes it so hard for Hiroki to get set up in response to this Palkia V. And in the mirror, and as I said, in the mirror, it just starts that downward spiral. It's all about momentum. When you know that your opponent's being able to take advantage of the same synergies and the same combinations as you are, just having something set up in play and being able to attack efficiently is a huge boon. We've even got the capture energy here.
Yeah, capture energy, not the best energy to attach to Palkia. Palkia uses that subspace swell attack for 2 water energy. Does have Hydro Break, can utilize that maybe later on, or rather earlier on before evolving, but really values getting Greninja out, wants to maybe find a supporter card. This hand really also doesn't have too much going for it. Will utilize concealed cards to look at a few more cards out of the deck. Really eyeing up Irida. Quick Ball as well will do. Can start to get some of these Sobbles down to play. And
yeah, beautiful setup.
Yeah, there's some options here for sure, definitely to work with.
You've got your draw engine, you've got your main attacker set up, and then just a couple Sobbles across the table. You're feeling pretty good. Kai going to get a Sobble of his own setup, and this is the foundation. Every deck focuses on getting these setups down first and then adapting to the board state as things develop. And once you get this first setup done, you've kind of completed your homework assignment, then you can really start thinking about how do I convert this to the win.
And just the pass over to Hiroki. I have to imagine there's not much going on in this hand. Wow, it looks like double Palkia V-Star and a load of energies in this hand. You can utilize Keep Calling, but it doesn't really seem like there's much else Hiroki can do on this turn.
Yeah, just a lot of setup, but nothing to show for it. Just going to be an attach, maybe just to keep calling, get more Sobbles, but this is going to be massively too slow, perhaps. Just thinning the deck is all you can do, but we need a supporter. We need some other way to search through for the key pieces of the deck.
Yeah, just to keep calling Palkia out in the first turn, that's bad enough. If you miss 2 turns, things can slip away, especially when your opponent's already got a threat potentially able to be established. The Palkia V-Star coming out means that there can be a guaranteed attack this turn with Kai utilizing Star Portal, but it's an ability you really value in this matchup because of the incredible amount of uses it has. And Heavy Ball as well. Kai will get the news right away about 2 of those Drizzles being in the prize cards. And I mean, you're ahead at this point. You feel a little good, but it's never a good sign to say, hey, my main engine of finding the pieces I need, I'm not going to have access to those until I start getting aggressive and taking some knockouts.
Precisely. The Drizzile being in the prizes means that if Hiroki is somehow able to stabilize from this position, start mounting that comeback, Kai is going to have less flexibility to pivot and find the counter responses to maintain this lead. Going to just tap out with the subspace swell here.
Star Portal.
The Star Portal
yep.
For the V-Star power. To set up this attack, just going to take down the first Sobble, getting the prizes through, and grabs a Drizzile.
Wow, so yeah, the 2 Drizzile at the top was really bad there for Kai, but reorganizing the prizes is good. Kai really didn't want to utilize Star Portal at that point. You'd rather just utilize it at a better time to fully power Greninja up or get something else, but Kai knows that my opponent's off to a really poor start. I've got to get aggressive and take advantage of this moment. And finally, Hiroki top-decking Palkia, but as we know, there's not much else in this hand. It looks like 3 Water Energy, 2 Palkia V-Star, so we'll have that for the following turn. But with this on the bench and keep calling filling up Hiroki's bench, this math is getting close. So currently, Subspace Swell is hitting for, it looks like 180, 200, 220, so 240 damage right now as it seems here.
So if there is a way to best up that Palkia, it's still going to be very close because we've seen, again, the sort of arms race of, okay, I've got the Choice Belt, I've got the Leon, just trying to boost that attack to cover every single matchup, every single option. Just has to pass. Hope that this Palkia V can stay on the bench.
And the Palkia on the bench may not be the question because there are already 2 Cross Switcher in Kai's hand, and that can just bring it up.
Oh, no.
You usually would imagine 240 being on the board right away at this point when we're turned 3 in, but it's only 100, and let's check here. Not doing enough right away, but Irida is going to be able to find the pieces necessary. Currently 160 damage with how things stand, 60 for 20 for every basic Pokemon in play, and you can see this deck really, of course, it has strong hitting power. It can still hit for 160 damage if your opponent benches no Pokemon. But if your opponent wants to set up, if they want to build their board up, they're going to have to bench Pokemon, and it just means every Pokemon they bench, it's extra 20 damage, and Subspace Swell can start getting these big numbers with a Choice Belt, knocking V-Stars out, and Irida able to find this Greninja's in play, wants to find the Pokemon to fill this bench up.
Yeah.
And this is going to be perfect. Concealed cards can draw some more after finding some waters off the bucket. Kai's just kind of running away with this game, and it's to no fault of Hiroki. Hiroki did nothing wrong. The cards just weren't there at the beginning of the game.
Because in order to mount that comeback, you have to fill up your bench. You're just getting double punished for falling behind in this mirror. As we said, it's all about momentum. And the Palkia V-Star is just going to start wreaking havoc on Sobble after Sobble.
And there's the Palkia coming down. I have to imagine here, yep, Manaphy is there. So with a full bench now, this is dealing 220 damage. Perfect math there. There's the double cross switcher, bringing up the Palkia, retreating off the energy that was put on the Greninja last turn via Star Portal. And there it is, Subspace Swell, exactly enough, 220 damage. We'll take the knockout. Kai already at 3 prize cards, and Hiroki has no response this turn.
At this point, I'm wondering if it is going to be a concession just to buy time going into those later rounds. Now with the Manaphy on the bench, we don't have any cheeky Moonlit Shuriken setup surprise plays with the Star Portal, and it's looking pretty rough here, Ethan.
Yeah, Hiroki's going to stay in this game, or at least try to, by playing the Greninja down off the Quick Ball top deck. Definitely would like to see that a few turns earlier, and we'll see what these 2 cards warrant. And it is a Palkia. But yeah, no, Hiroki understands there are so many outs for my opponent to just gust it up again with another cross switcher or boss's orders. We're going to go ahead and go into game number 2. Quick game there for Kai. 8 minutes, all it took to close that one out.
The mirror matches are so decisive across so many matchups, across so many different formats. It's a tale as old as time. When you're going right up against your deck, you know that getting that turn 1, turn 2 setup is all important. Even though Hiroki wasn't doesn't have as many battle VIP paths, it simply didn't even matter without the attacker, without the Greninja.
Yeah, Hiroki's going to get another opportunity to kick things off and go first at this point. Again, such a big advantage, especially if your opponent gets off to a start like that. You can just run away with things. Big thing, again, is when you're playing less copies of Battle VIP Pass, your starts on turn 1 can be a little bit less explosive. But Irida can be played at any point after turn 1. And Hiroki just really unfortunate draws. There's not much you can do. I think we're really going to see how this matchup unfolds. Everyone, again, plays this matchup a little bit differently. There's no guide to playing the Palkia match that's just available for everybody to copy and use. Otherwise, that wouldn't be fun if everybody played the same. And especially when you get players from different regions who maybe have different testing groups or ways they played this mirror. These players 100% have practiced this mirror match. They expected to play this when they selected their deck for this weekend. I'm interested to see how they play. I'm excited to see what goes down in Game 2.
And is this a double mulligan?
Wow, yeah, 2 mulligans right off the bat. And it looks like 1 mulligan for each, so it will just even itself out. It's probably the best feeling when you mulligan, you're like, oh, my opponent's going to get an extra card to set up. May find another Battle VIP Pass.
Especially like we saw how easy it is for one side to get way out ahead of the other in this mirror. You know, the mulligans are also adding more fuel to the fire to get that, you know, explosive opening play, that explosive setup that these Palkia decks certainly can be capable of. But both players have certainly been in similar situations before. Very seasoned veterans. You know, Kai got second at the Bremen Regionals with Mew VMAX. Hiroki top 16 at Worlds 2016. So they know what they're doing.
Yeah, both these are players, no stranger to the stage. Definitely have showed they've got what it takes to be here consistently. Solid starts for both players. Let's kick things off. And oh boy, this hand is just as poor as the first. Can get 4 water energy to the hand, can attach the Sobble, and that's all Hiroki can do. So unfortunate. You kind of put that in your mind and say, okay, that game was a stroke of luck. I know my deck is better than this. I know my deck can set up. It can get rolling. There's a reason I've played them already 3-0. And just reset that in your mind, and then you get your opening hand, and it's just the same thing. It's Palkia V-Star. It's trainer cards you can't play on this turn or really don't have access to. And you just have to kind of look through your deck and say, man, there's a lot of great cards in here. I can't have any of them.
It's just part of card games, right? Even the strongest decks can have these really clunky bricked draws. And even though you're 3-0, you're expecting a little bit of variance, of course. And maybe, you know, you breathe a sigh of relief to say, you know what? Maybe it's fine that I'm just getting this out of the way now.
Passing the turn over to Kai. I have to imagine Kai is feeling excellent. You just had pretty much an easy win. It was handed to you. Your opponent didn't do anything to make things difficult. Your deck functioned like it should. You just took knockouts, and you're like, okay, now the real fun begins. Oh, I guess it's the same thing as the first game. Your opponent just attached fast. Kai going to take the opportunity to look through the deck, see what cards are not available. Definitely going to have a little bit of a better feeling knowing that, hey, my Drizzles are available this game. I get to use them now. Isn't that a great feeling?
Especially without the Palkia setup like we saw in Game 1, you are going to need to rely a little bit harder on those shady dealings to get the cards you need to adapt to this board state as it develops. A lot of water energy being gathered up here.
Wow, that is 5 energy in the hand, and we're going to see 2 hit the discard pile. The quick ball will grab Greninja, I'm almost certain, and we're going to see the concealed cards discard the water energy and draw some more. Really looking for things like Battle VIP Pass to get things kicked off. And yeah, this is typical things we see. You dig through the deck on turn 1, you try to find Irida or Battle Pass, and from there, things start to get rolling. I can't see that last supporter card, but everything else in the hand really isn't playable besides the energy to keep calling at worst.
Once the shuffle is done, we'll have the concealed cards ability go through, and these next couple top decks can really tie this entire turn together, this entire combination.
Ooh, finds level ball, but that is not an out to Palkia. We'll just have to attach the energy and see the keep calling go into play.
Yep, just going to find more Sobbles.
Yeah, Sobbles are going to be grabbed. Going to try to fill the bench up with as many as possible. And looks like Kai is playing the 4 copies of Sobble. It was really weird to see that version. That was usually in all Inteleon engines that we've seen in at least this format through this D-block on rotation. It's always been, okay, you play 4 Sobble, maybe 3 Drezon and Inteleon or something around that. But this tested group has really been set on playing 3-3 or 3-2 or whatever lines. But Kai says, you know what? I like using more than 3 Shady Dealings. Sometimes I want to scoop up net and use a little bit more. So going to fill the bench up fully. And Hiroki will finally get to play the game to utilize Drizzile. I'm sure this will find something like an Irida to grab some pieces out. And right away, fan to the top of the deck understands, hey, Palkia needs to come out now, and it needs to not get knocked out for me to be able to deal some damage and take some prize cards.
And you can already see with both players employing that subspace swell attack that its damage scaling based on the bench sizes of both players. You'd think there'd be some underbenching or some dancing around, but no, both players are still just going full tilt. It's much more important in a mirror match to set up and focus on just doing a powerful game plan quickly and playing for tempo. I really like that both players are adapting to a much more aggressive stances for this mirror, especially here in game 2 where Hiroki really needs to make it count, has the Radiant Greninja, and is going to do the same. Concealed cards, discard the energy, draw 2. And there's a scoop up net, gonna reset that Radiant Greninja back down onto the bench to concealed cards once more, drawing even more cards. And you can see here, just looking through, getting these resources. This is the explosiveness we were talking about, Ethan. The ability to get set up, have access to most of your deck. Quick ball going back in, looking for the rest of the pieces. As long as there's not a Palkia on Kai's side, Hiroki doesn't necessarily need to get the attacker down right away. But you can see all the pieces are falling into place beautifully with this sequence. Palkia V hitting the bench. Radiant Greninja set up. We've got our Drizzile ready to go. Massive hand as well, and Hiroki is certainly in a position to start running away with this game.
Yeah, your setup isn't necessarily like the most explosive thing that you really want on your second turn, but the fact of the matter is, you've got Palkia down before your opponent. You're going to be threatening a lot more next turn. Greninja will be up and healthy the following turn, and Drizzile can evolve into that Shady Dealings Inteleon, and Kai really needs to find Palkia. Do we see it off the bat? There's the concealed cards. Can utilize, it looks like, the scoop up net in hand to pick the Greninja back up and try again. But there is, I mean, level ball as well. So, you know what? There are some outs here. So it does have Drizzile as well. Forgot that it was a pretty weak turn. We are in the second turn for Kai to get things rolling. And there's a Drizzile. Will almost certainly grab a way to either search it out via Irida or via the quick ball. And this is the deck functioning at turn 2 minus its main attacker, which is the most important thing that you want to get set up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you can search through all the cards in the world, but if you can't attack your opponent, you can't take those prize cards, you cannot win. So as you predicted, the Irida, of course, is found. And this has just been a fantastic boon to these water decks. It really just allows this list to get set up so consistently, being able to get that Radiant Greninja, the new Radiant Pokemon that were recently added. You can only have 1 copy in your deck, so just being able to turn that into quote-unquote 4 copies and just have that concealed cards ability working for you from the first couple turns just gives you so much more card advantage.
Yeah, you touched on it slightly, but we haven't really seen the bench management come into fact because these players haven't been able to even get their game plan strategy. Yeah. The one thing we'll see is a lot of players in this matchup will not bench more than 4 Pokemon. And the problem really comes to the fact that when you can only play with 4 Pokemon, and when Greninja is such a good card at knocking out your Drizziles, which is your consistency, so you want Mana Feed down, and you see right there, you've already got 2 cards off the bat that you want on your bench with your Palkia attacker. So utilizing the scoop up nets to free the space up on the board is definitely going to be a solid way to keep things up and not have to worry about sacrificing bench spot for Inteleons. The fact of the matter is, Kai's deck can still function without utilizing 4 Sobbles. Would rather have some other Pokemon down, but when you had nothing that turn, you might as well get the Sobbles into play because they're cards you don't want to draw into on your turn. And, I mean, while Kai is able to continue things going, we just see Hiroki just saying, let's keep the pace up and play. Both these players, again, do not want to tie. They want to win. Or, I mean, they don't want to lose, but they definitely don't want to tie because then nobody walks away happy. But scoop up net again will free the bench spot up. Drizzile can be used again. And here we go. We're seeing another Palkia come down. And this is typical. Getting 2 Palkia down, you want backup attackers. Now it just comes down to bench management and who is going to strike first and hit into one of these 2 prize Pokemon before the other.
Hiroki does still have the Palkia V with the energy attachment, is in a position to evolve and get that second energy down. Both players have access to Star Portal as well to get a setup immediately. So we'll see if, you know, this Palkia V does evolve into a Palkia V Star, gets the knockout, but gets return KO'd. Hiroki still needs to hope that, do I have that backup plan? Do I have that extra attacker? And Kai does have the backup Palkia V. So if this game starts to go a few more turns, then Kai certainly is looking favored here in game number 2.
Yeah, it's really going to come down to what Hiroki can put together. You've only got access to 1 Shady Dealings this turn. And
oh, the path to the peak!
That is a huge play down. Kai understands that my deck can function without abilities next turn, but you're going to have a lot harder of a time finding the pieces you need with concealed cards. So, wow, this is a big-time call here from Kai because Hiroki would have really benefited off the use of abilities this turn. Could utilize the Greninja to knock out double Sobble or the Drizzile in the Sobble to limit the amount of cards that Kai can find the following turn. Could try and go for a big attack with the Palkia V-Star on the bench. And now, unless Hiroki finds a counter stadium, none of those plays are really going to be possible. I mean, the gusting play is possible, but not with this hand, not with the cards that Hiroki has access to right now.
Yeah, Path to the Peak is a classic card that the power scales with, the timing of when it's employed. It's one thing to just naturally enjoy a good advantage when you've drawn well and you've got your setup, but to solidify that advantage is so key. And with the Path, we can see Hiroki really scrambling to figure out how to make it.
Yeah, this is a huge time play here. Hiroki actually plays the Avery, so the Avery can limit the bench down to 2, has access to Star Portal, so this Star Portal, if Hiroki wants to, can be utilized on this Greninja to take a knockout on the Sobble and damage the Palkia, or even spread damage onto both Palkia, but that Avery is huge.
Has the
bench up with so many Pokemon, and there's a training court as well, both grabbed off the Shady Dealings Inteleon, can now utilize concealed cards, can now utilize Star Portal. Options are opening up for Hiroki after what looked like such a terrible start, even a game-losing start.
After, getting that Path to the Peak bumped, you're opening the floodgates almost to the rest of what this deck is capable of. We've got the attach here of the Capture Energy, going to find even more resources. And now with the Palkia V-Star set up, with access to the Star Portal, maybe trying to set up that Moonlit Shuriken, as you said, Ethan. So many options available, and it's just a matter of how do I navigate, looking across the table against 2 Palkia V.
Big time. We haven't really seen this card see as much play as of recent, but hey, look, Hiroki understands that in this mirror match, when it's all about bench management and having bench Pokemon consistently to put down and all those factors put into mind, that Avery is the card that I want to play, and it seems to have been putting in work in this game at least, and I'm sure in multiple other games. Star Portal can put 2 energy, and this is where Capture Energy comes to shine because it can fulfill attacks like the Moonlight Shuriken on the Greninja, and actually opting to put 2 water on the active. This is a play we don't see a lot, but what this opens up is that if for some reason this Greninja is not knocked out, all that's needed for Hiroki is a single attachment. The most this deck can do to accelerate into Greninja besides Star Portal. Yep. And look, I've got that option as a threat, so Hiroki wants to spread the options as wide as possible. Say, hey, well, if you deal with my Palkia, I've got the Greninja. If you deal with my Greninja, I've got a powered up Palkia ready to go. Hiroki very smart choosing this option. I like the play so far.
Yeah, beautiful.
Didn't really get to see so much of that game 1, but Hiroki showing off their stuff game number 2.
The surprise factor of the Star Portal to set up the Radiant Greninja is one part of it, but to make that threat even more oppressive with that extra energy attachment really showcases Hiroki's knowledge of this mirror match, saying, now I have this, again, this fork. Which threat do you want to deal with? What do you think I'm going to pivot to? There's no great outcomes for Kai here when you're looking down the barrel of this stacked up Radiant Greninja.
Yes, we're just looking at a judge discrepancy here. It looks like something revolving around training court, maybe utilizing the usage of it or concealed cards. A lot of energy discarding and plays happen this turn, so hopefully we'll get that resolved and figured out. We just got into the climax of this game. We're starting to get things going. So
yeah,
when
the game's coming up to a head, the players maybe just getting very excited about, making their combo, solidifying their lead, and you just got to make sure that you're staying calm, keeping clean. But that's what the judges here are for. Big shout out to all the judges, of course, that help us run the events and make sure that the players are, keeping everything proper. And, that just keeping that sportsmanship there, because you don't want to have a mistake be the reason that you won a game. You want to, win fair and square. Players being very patient right now, just making absolutely sure, that the board state is properly maintained. But when this does get settled and we head back over to Kai, what do you think, Ethan, would be the response to this setup right now?
Well, Kai's really got to prioritize what is the bigger threat on Hiroki's side. Does Hiroki really want to utilize that Palkia later on in the game? Is it even possible to knock that Palkia out? Or do you think that it's worth just maybe taking the turn to be a little bit more consistent? You're going to potentially lose all of your Inteleon lines. So the problem for Kai with priorities as well is what options do you even have to work with at this point? Because you're going to lose your entire Inteleon engine. The reason Irida functions so well in this deck is because it can grab your Drizzile and your pieces. So I think the bigger question here is going to be automatically, can Kai utilize the cards in hand at this point, or was getting rid of the entire engine for on Hiroki's side of getting rid of that engine on Kai's side, is that just too much? Is there not much else that can happen? So hopefully we'll resume the action very shortly. This has, again, been an entertaining match to watch. Not really the most when it comes to big, sluggish, back-and-forth hitting power, but at the same time, this is part of Pokemon, the part that you don't see a lot.
Yeah.
The decks just, their decks are meant, and they're engineered, and they're practiced, and they're tested, and they're optimized, so that they draw well and get what needs to be, get done what needs to be done. Problem is, there's variance, and there's things that come in that way, and we even see in multiple games, Path to the Peak can put a stop into that. Sometimes just your opening hand is not enough to get going.
A lot of games. That's like the most clutch moments is when you're under that threat of Path to the Peak, you can't use your abilities, and then, you know, you draw that stadium to bump it, and then suddenly you're right back in the game. You draw that clutch Pumpkaboo to bump that stadium, you're right back in the game. And those are those make or break moments that we truly live for here, especially here at Worlds. I think that if you're going to be a World Championship, those clutch moments are just going to come naturally to you.
Listen, stars are born here, right? Legends are made. That's what the World Championships is for, to celebrate the best of the best across all platforms in Pokemon. And we're going to be seeing exciting action today, tomorrow, and throughout this entire weekend. There's no better place to be, and there's no better place to watch than here to get all of the exciting Pokemon action. And this is what I'm really looking forward to seeing. We're going to be seeing a lot of these matchups throughout the weekend. We're going to be seeing a lot of different archetypes. Players understand Palkia at this point. Going into NAIC, it was still a fresher deck, maybe had a few weeks of legality going into that. But there's been a pretty big gap between NAIC and World Championships. It's been over a month. Players now understand how to optimize these Pokélists, and more importantly, how to optimize play and sequencing. There's a lot of sequencing going on, when to concealed cards, when to search cards out of the deck. Players have gotten good at this. They're ready and they're prepared to apply those skills here at the World Championships.
And that's all that matters. All of the preparation that you put in, you have to be confident when your opponent is actually putting up a really great fight. You know, every card game has the variance of, well, you know, this win was kind of free because my opponent drew poorly. But when both players are now here in game number 2 of the set on a pretty even keel, this is where you have the chance to really show what you're made of as a player, because you can navigate these lines, maybe try to find a way to outplay. And I think that as we move forward throughout the rest of today's broadcast and into tomorrow, we're going to see the players just really show us how it's done. Even if you are an expert player, when you see the best in the world go at it, there's always going to be something that you can study and improve on and learn. And that's really what we're seeing right now, Ethan.
Yeah, you learn anything. Every time I watch a game, it doesn't matter whether it's at a regional championship, even when we had local events at League Cups, I was always learning something, and that's the great thing to take away from Pokemon. There's always something to improve. So once we get this settled out, we'll have a judge call, figure everything out, and we're going to be seeing a lot of mirrors throughout stream, but this is one that's important. When you get the most popular deck, it's inevitable that you're going to have to run into it a few times here and there. And once we figure out how this matchup looks, again, multiple routes, multiple ways to play, all things to consider, and hopefully we'll get back and play some more Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little stroke of luck, you know, that these players are actually playing on stream. It's very easy for the judges to check the footage if they need to see what's going on. And I think that the players, of course, if there were any mistakes made, it's just pretty easy to get it corrected once we get everything set back up into play. And, you know, don't forget, you know, for viewers at home, let us know what you think. Keep up with, you know, the Play Pokemon account on social media. Use that hashtag. Let us know who you're rooting for. You know, I imagine that a lot of eagle-eyed viewers probably noticed some sort of discrepancy, and they're yelling at the screen right now, oh, yeah, they're fixing this or that. But, of course, the players also need to be made aware of what happened so that they can avoid it in the future. Use that as a little bit of a learning point as well. As I said, when you get really excited, sometimes, you know, that clean play can begin to slip. with so much on the line for these players here in the second game, Kai is hungry for things to get back up and running to try to take this perhaps in a 2-0 and move on to that coveted 4-0. It's going to be great to build that momentum and have a nice buffer for yourself as we close out the first portion of the Swiss rounds here in London at the World Championships.
Yeah, so it looks like we're dealing with concealed card use twice. Hard to keep track of, and that kind of goes back into Radiant Pokemon. Ninja has found a home into this Palkia deck and a lot of other decks too, and the introduction of a new mechanic in Radiant Pokemon has shown a lot more creativity in the game. This deck would not be as aggressive, and these draws would not be possible without the help of Radiant Greninja. And these Radiant Pokemon provide specific usage and general usage in a lot of these decks. Greninja, one of the most powerful Pokemon when it comes to attacks. Greninja on its own has one of those powerful abilities, very reminiscent to multiple energy discard abilities, some that we've seen in previous time. Roast Reveal on Salazzle a while back, discarding fire energies and drawing cards. Greninja lets you discard any energy. It can be a basic energy, or it could be a special energy as well. But on top of having a powerful ability, the fact that it has an attack that can deal 90 snipe to 2 Pokemon, that's incredible in itself.
And again, perfectly complemented with the Palkia, with that Star Portal being able to get the water energy from the discard pile assigned to it, and you can just kind of pull that out. It's a constant threat whenever players are against these Palkia lists. The threat of that Moonlight Shuriken just forces your opponent to play in a very off-kilter way sometimes. We've had players, you know, being forced to use resources to search out that Manaphy, having to bench a Manaphy when maybe they'd prefer not to, just to protect against that devastating play. Knocking out 2 Sobbles, taking away 2 potential Drizziles can leave so many lists just dead in the water.
Yeah, and Radiant Pokemon span not just to Greninja, but the new Radiant Charizard is a card that I really want to see come on stream. That ability allowing it to attack for a colorless less for every prize card your opponent's taken. Very well synergized with the massive 5 energy attack cost to deal 250 damage. It's a powerful effect and has great synergy, but Path to the Peak has been the real MVP card, seeing a lot more play because it shuts off these Radiant Pokemon. It's not just exclusive to V Pokemon in the format. Radiants do have a caveat, and they have a weakness to that very strong and powerful Stadium card. And that card has seen a lot of usage. It's been over a year now that we've had Path to the Peak. It's seen play from its release right away in disruptive decks and decks that want to slow the pace down a little bit. And now we've seen that, hey, you can always replace your own stadium. You can always change the battlefield up, change the environment up a little bit. We can make it cold a little bit. We can make the trek a little bit treacherous, and then we'll go back to playing some Pokemon wherever I feel like going.
Yeah, I love how the usage has kind of really gone up and down as the meta has adapted, as new decks have shown up on the scene, and the players are always prepared to go back to some other stadium just to make sure they have those clean counters. We even saw like a mini meta with like Collapse Stadium because everybody was trying to limit, you know, like Suicune, you know, the great grandfather of now Palkia V-Star.
Yeah, listen, stadiums are a unique effect in the Pokemon trading card game, and I love them because they always are changing up and you can never know what to expect. Powerful stadium cards really change the course of the game. You've got to be able to play around them. Path to the Peak is a card that you have to have an answer to in your deck right now in the standard format. If you are an ability-based deck, I mean, imagine if you VMAX played no stadium cards, then we'd see Path Marnie and then the game would be over in 2 or 3 turns because the deck wouldn't be able to function like that. So the ability to really have your opponent play cards around that, it also means that the more cards you commit in an archetype or the archetype sort of generally plays, like for example, if a deck plays 4 Path to the Peak, a deck that really wants to utilize ability has to commit those deck slots to play stadiums that they benefit them sometimes. I mean, cards like Rose Tower, they're great from you because they draw more cards. They would probably still play it if Path wasn't a card, but you need to play a stadium to replace it, so you're going to try to find a card that, yeah, maybe I'd rather have another Trekking Shoe in my deck instead, or maybe I'd rather have another card that really allots to a slot to make my deck more consistent. Sacrifices you have to make. It's part of deck building, and it's part of the choices these players have had to make coming up to this moment in day 1 of Worlds.
Yeah, it's that game of chicken to try to win the stadium war. Especially, I think Mew VMAX is a perfect example, Ethan, because you have the Rose Tower, and if you just have your Rose Tower just stuck already that you can't just bump it for another, then that's just another card that's clogging up your hand that you can't thin down for your Genesect to draw more cards. So I really like, again, just that mini meta of how many of my precious deck slots am I willing to give up to, you know, win against Path to the Peak specifically, but also other matchups that are trying to counter me.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have this issue hopefully resolved in a few. We're just checking back. Head judge coming in, make sure things are looking good.
Head judge.
And yeah, listen, when things escalate to this, sometimes things are hard to keep track of. You really got to figure out where things went wrong, what problems you have to fix.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have the stream to check on things, make sure everything is functioning and going well. And again, I really want to see this mirror match played out because as I've explained, there's multiple ways you can play this matchup. There's multiple ways you can really dive in. You can utilize the Inteleon Aqua Bullet. You really don't want to give your opponent the easy route of taking 3 knockouts onto multiple prize Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's really the issue that you're going to run into it several times. So, I mean, at this point here, it's really interesting to see how these players are going to dive into their selection of choice. I've seen some players say, you know what? If I take the first knockout, I'm going to fill my bench as many times as possible and go subspace swell, subspace swell, subspace swell. And other players are like, yeah, I'm gonna take things chill here. I'm gonna take a step back. I'm gonna be like, all right, Aqua Bullet Inteleon. Roxanne is a very powerful card. Haven't gotten to the point to see it used yet, but keep your eye out for that card because that card is the most disruptive element so far. So, yeah, it looks like we are getting back to the table hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Figuring out the issues. Luckily, we have it resolved. Players aren't going to lose any time over this. They will be given an adequate time extension to make sure that the game was played, essentially as if nothing happened. But as we know, things always happen in between that.
Exactly, because it's not just about finding out if something went wrong. We have to find out when it happened and try to correct that board state if possible, how that can be repaired. And so it does add a little bit of time onto getting this all sorted. But fortunately, this second game seemed to be kind of coming to a crescendo where one side was going to get a massive advantage to maybe just quickly close it out, hopefully taking us to a game 3. I know that every player wants to just have 2-0s all day, but for, you know, casting and for the viewers at home, we want to see as much Pokemon as possible. So I'm certainly getting excited for a third game here potentially, especially with such an interesting mirror match. I know, like, the first layer of any mirror is like, oh, you know, if they do this and I whiff on that, you know, it's kind of just a free game. But when the players are on their even footing and we have a little bit of a back and forth, it can get pretty exciting, especially with so many moving pieces, the different threats of the Radiant Greninja, the Palkia, the Inteleons working together. I just love how many ways you can approach this matchup. Like you were just saying, Ethan, do I want to go aggressive, fill up my bench, try to solidify my advantage? Do I want to play it chill, play towards the quick shooting Inteleon, maybe try to set up a Roxanne path to the peak, try to lock down? A lot of different ways to approach it. And as we hopefully get into the next part of game number 2, we'll see what the players are going to do. They've had a lot of time, honestly, to think about how to approach this current board state and matchup.
Look, in my mind, a good game is an exciting one. It's got a lot of action. It's back and forth. There's players. We didn't really see that in game number 1. There were a few highlights to point out, a few things that didn't really go both players' ways, but that's how Pokemon works. It's back and forth. You've got to really consider what works and what doesn't work, and hopefully we'll get things underway. I'm just so excited to continue action on. We've had some awesome matches so far in the day. Awesome matches going on off stream here. These players are playing. And it's important to make sure everyone's on the same page. We figure things out, and sometimes it's just what has to happen. We have to take time, make sure things are all settled. As we talk about Palkia, what isn't there to talk about Palkia? This card has just continued to be dominating.
Yeah.
As soon as this card was released, I think everybody knew, hey, this is a card you're going to be seeing for a while. Something pretty much that directly counters this card will have to be released to stop this card from being powerful. And we'll have to see with new expansions coming out. Can Palkia remain up top, or is there a new king in town? Is somebody new going to come in and really show Palkia that, hey, I'm you, but better?
I mean, what I liked so much about Palkia was that it showed up on the scene. Everybody knew it was strong, and it wasn't one of those decks where, okay, it won a tournament, but that's because it's new. People need to learn the matchup. They haven't adapted to it yet. Everybody knew that it was good, and then there was that great war of like the 2 or 3 different archetypes of people who are trying to run different spreads of Battle VIP Pass and all of that, and to figure out what is the quote-unquote best, most optimal build of the deck. And now we're still getting a nice even mirror, as you already mentioned. Hiroki running the lesser Battle VIP Pass version, again opening up more flexibility, more tech slots. And, you know, especially at the World Championship where there's just too many variables to account for, having a couple extra tech cards can really save your bacon, you know, when the chips are down.
Yeah, listen, things are going to continue to evolve. Decks always evolve. I mean, look at Arceus and Teleon, for example. When the deck first came out and was played at Salt Lake City Regional, the deck was playing, I think, one Sharon's Care and a Palpad, and it was playing B-Barrel and Crobat to draw through cards, and with Choice Belt and more aggressive cards, and it's evolved and gone pretty much on a flip 180. It now just plays Inteleon pieces. Its whole point is to just hit for enough damage to two-hit knock out most Pokemon Vs and V-Stars, and it can just continuously heal. So the priorities have changed. And this is kind of the same thing with Palkia. When Palkia first came out, people thought Professor's Research was the best card to play. People thought Irido is too slow. Why would I find just 2 pieces out of my deck when I can be more aggressive draw and still utilize Shady Dealings and not have to guarantee the search off of the prize cards, or rather off out of the deck. And that just shows that, listen, decks are never going to be optimized when they first come out. There's always improvements that can be made, and that's the wonderful thing about Pokemon.
And now with, I think, the head judge coming down, making the ruling, getting everything sorted, we're going to be jumping back in, hopefully here pretty soon. And now, you know, as we've been talking back and forth, really discussing the metagame, the builds of these decks, the mindset of these players, we got to get back into the game at hand. Right now, we've got a Moonlight Shuriken about to slam down onto the Sobble, maybe the Radiant Greninja, get those knockouts. Again, that extra energy that was attached by Hiroki means that you're only going to need one more just attach for turn to threaten the second Moonlight Shuriken. And with Kai, you know, with just a Palkia V in play, we need another energy to attach. We need the Palkia V-Star. With the Sobble potentially leaving the board like this, you know, you aren't going to have access to that Drizzile to find another piece. Everything that you need to respond to the play that is about to happen needs to be in Kai's hand. And he could be in very big trouble if you miss your window to respond to this massive, aggressive play from Hiroki.
Yeah, and as we're waiting on this, we've got a few updates from some games happening off stream as the round is coming to a close. Some 4-0, some people advancing to 4-0. Aiden Kus playing a very interesting Arceus variant. Kobe Wazaki, we've got Noah, Tomoya Morida, a bunch of players here from Japan, so they're really showing their stuff. They've come in pretty large numbers and are really saying, hey, we've had experience in this format, we're good with it. So it seems that only a handful of people are going to move to 4-0. The field is going to cut down quite a bit. It looks like there's maybe about 15, it looks like about 20 players or so in those numbers that are going to be getting to that 4-0 record, and it will continue to be cut in half. We'll get to maybe about 8 or so players playing for that match to go to 6-0 to put themselves into day number 2. And for those who aren't familiar with the day 2 tournament structure, once you get 6 wins, once you get 18 match points, you actually drop from the tournament. You don't play any more matches. You can go home. It's such a weird feeling to be like, I'm 6-0 and I can just leave. I can just put my deck down and walk away. That's how it is at World Championships.
Yeah, get locked in. That's what everybody's worried about, getting those wins. And we've talked about it a couple times on the cast, and a lot of the other casters mentioned it as well, you know, that, you know, because you need to achieve a certain point total, it's not just having the best record of the field, it's achieving a goal like that. The tying for certain decks can be very devastating because you aren't getting as much, you know, value out of each individual set that you are playing. But we are getting a small update here. They are, again, just checking the footage, trying to see where they can repair the game state. And I think that because this particular mirror match is so explosive, even if one side is, you know, ahead on prizes at one point, that's just going to cascade. It's not necessarily even about what prizes are remaining. It's about the dominance that you have in play on the board. You could be down to your opponent has 1 prize left, but if they run out of attackers or you turn off their ability to use that Shady Dealings to get the pieces they need to convert and get that last prize, you can very easily make that comeback, especially, I think, almost especially in the Palkia Mirror.
Yeah, mirror matches have existed since the beginning of Pokemon, all the way back to base set. And it really is a testament to, of course, how you draw in that matchup.
Big shout out to Scyther versus Scyther.
Okay, now we're going. Listen, that was before I was born. That's before my time for sure. I'm thinking more like Toad mirror matches and things like that. Seisma Toad EX, but I digress. Mirror matches will always be important, and when the decks are the top, only one can win, right, at this point. So you kind of get put into a position where you maybe put in techs for this matchup. There's not really a lot you can play tech-wise. Except for the fact that we did see the Avery come out, and that is a very strong card to limit the bench. It's also good against a variety of other decks, such as Regigigas. That in combination with something like Cross Switch or Knockout will leave your opponent with just 3 Pokemon remaining in play. And when you need to have a full bench of very specific Pokemon, that combined with a Marnie or a Roxanne means your opponent's deck just is not able to function. Seeing a lot of usage, and you have that powerful effect of discarding your opponent's bench, similar to Parallel City we saw back in the Breakthrough expansion as a stadium card. But you use your supporter for turn, sure, but you get 3 more cards, so you can continue to set up the board, disrupt your opponent. What's better than that? You get the best of both worlds there.
Yeah, I mean, the Avery is such an interesting tech card because it really didn't see too much play and then suddenly just exploded onto the scene. And now as more decks have been added into the format, it's found more and more use. As you said, bullying the Regigigas decks, the Solrock Lunatone, that saw a lot of success as like a fun, new, strong single prize deck with the Pokemon Go expansion. And so you have that nice hedge, right, of like these rogue decks that you might not be able to account for, but then, you know, you can hit those Mew decks to make them limit their bench a little bit. So overall, I do like the inclusion, and even in a matchup like this, you can just say, okay, well, you know, you got to choose, you got to make your opponent pick their poison, and some players really enjoy that when you have a card that makes your opponent make a tough choice. You just get that extra little bit of mental damage.
Everyone likes their decks differently constructed, the ways to play their decks. I know some players who will only play disruptive variants, variants that either discard energies or things like the Mewtwo V-Union that will only heal. I know that deck came out of NAIC and people were like, this is my deck. How did I not come up with this? I'm the control expert. But everybody seems to have a typical style, or they're a wild card. They'll play anything that goes in front of them. Those are the best kinds of players, I feel like. Players who understand more decks and can play more decks can really prepare against those decks. There's a good saying that a lot of times you'll see players playing a lot of decks that maybe they wouldn't bring to a tournament, but the more you practice with those decks, the more suited you will be to play against them when a time comes like this in the tournament. Mirror matches are important, different matchups are important. Time and practice, can't stress it enough. These players have put in plenty to get themselves here and to practice for this event in total. A lot of the line as well, we haven't even talked about that. $25,000 for first place. That's a big prize pool to be competing for.
Yeah, I mean, the prestige of winning this event is going to be massive, and we've already talked about that, but like the actual prizes is so huge as well for these players to get, you know, so much glory and recognition on top of all of their hard work, and just a nice cash prize on top is just a way to keep allowing them to live their dreams, right? Because now you have a nice nest egg and you can keep up with the Joneses. And, you know, I love it. I'm glad that, you know, Pokemon has, you know, become such a success. It's something that we've all enjoyed for, you know, decades now. And it's just going strong. It's back in full force here for the World Championship. And it's just a great way to give back to the community as well. That's just been supporting what we all love for so long.
So it seems like we have an update here. The situation is getting resolved at this point. So it looks like Concealed Cards was used twice by Hiroki. So drawing extra cards will mean that a double prize card penalty will ensue. Now that we finally have a decision off of that, multiple things are going to happen. Most importantly, we're finally going to resume watching some Pokemon, the most important part. But two, this will change the course of the game. 2 prizes is very big in a matchup like this. In a mirror match especially, where both players are drawing evenly. They've got sort of equal threats on the board, and that means over on the other side, it's going to be 2 less prize cards to take, and that could mean the world of a difference.
Yeah, but in a matchup like this where it's based around the V-Stars, taking those 2 prize cards, you're, you know, 1/3 of the way to victory. Moonlight Shuriken, also a way to take 2 prize cards, and here we go. The time has been unstopped. The Moonlight Shuriken does come through. Sobble's going to go down. Radiant Greninja stays up, going to instead put that extra damage onto the Palkia V, and now we're over to Kai.
Yeah, and this is a big-time play. Kai had a lot of Inteleon pieces in the hand. Level Ball, Drizzile, Sobble, just things I could see right off the bat. And by removing all of those pieces, Kai has to be wondering now, what do I even get here? You get the Manaphy, but you got that down a turn too late if that was in play. The entire gameplay would be different, but at the same time, Avery would have just discarded it. So we're really seeing Hiroki value the usage of Avery. It's putting in its work. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Kai's going to have a little bit easier of a game plan, just need to take 4 prize cards. So 1 less 2 prize knockout. Concealed cards, what does it draw? does find Palkia V-Star. I don't think that was an issue before, so what are the options? It looks like Raihan is there, so Raihan can power up this Palkia without utilizing something like the Star Portal V-Star power. However, the same thing is going back into Kai's side here, or Hiroki's side rather. Does not have Manaphy down. There's a Sobble and some other 2-prize Pokemon in play. We could say, hey, I really didn't like that you did that to me. That was a little bit rude of you to utilize Moonlight Shuriken. I'm going to have to repay the favor and use it back on you.
And now, after all of this goes through, you know, again, the Manaphy is down to kind of cut off that fork that we talked about with the way that Hiroki has set up the Radiant Greninja. You only need the one energy attachment to use that Moonlight Shuriken again. So now with the Manaphy, you can take some of the sting out of that and start prepping against the Palkia V-Star instead. But the other side of that is you have to fill up your bench a little bit more to do it. So the Palkia V-Star is a little bit more threatening if you can't take it out. But already the Star Portal is used. Here comes Raihan as well, going to attach one more energy from the discard pile and then search the deck for any card of your choosing. And what do you think is that next card that Kai is going to need to tie together this comeback turn? Looks like it's Irida.
Yeah, I like Irida. Means you're going to have guaranteed consistency for the following turn. The way the prize penalty works is that Kai didn't just take 2 prize cards because of that penalty. Yeah. It means that there are 2 less prize cards needed to win, which is a big deal because it means Kai can play this entire game without having to fear for Roxanne at all. And that is a big-time issue because that is a big-time card in this matchup. Puts the energy on the Palkia V-Star. There it is, the Moonlight Shuriken, knocking out, or rather, this is a very smart play, putting 90 damage on both of these Pokemon V. This means it doesn't matter pretty much how Hiroki manages the bench. Full bench, 2 bench, 3 bench, whatever in this case. These Palkias are damaged to the point where they will be knocked out regardless of what happens, which means Kai's pretty much saying, look, my game plan is simple. You're going to bring this Palkia up and do whatever. I'm going to take 1 knockout on one of them. The other one's still going to be damaged. I'm going to take that last knockout.
I love that Kai has already adapted the game plan and the strategy based around the prize mapping. You're just reevaluating. I only need to take 4 prizes. That's 2 knockouts on V-Stars, Vs or V-Stars, and already working towards that goal with the Moonlight Shuriken. So now with things going back over to Hiroki, you have access to Moonlight Shuriken again, but maybe you need to get your big attacker actually up into the active. Try to take down this V-Star before Kai is able to clean up. Now with the subspace swell ability, the bench is pretty full for both players. This can hit the proper numbers as long as you can find the rest of the pieces here.
Yeah, it looks like Hiroki should have the pieces to get there as long as there's something like a cross-switcher already in the hand. You can grab Irida to grab the cross-switcher in another Pokemon. The only issue, again, is this Palkia can take a knock out another Palkia, but at that point, what do you really do to take care of the rest? You're going to need to knock out 3 more Pokemon. There's no 3 prize plays this deck can really do anymore at this point. You've already utilized Greninja. It does have 2 energy on it, but this is kind of where you've got to decide with Manaphy in play, what do you want to grab? And instead, Hiroki says, if my plan this turn is to just utilize a gusting effect with Cross Switcher, might as well not waste the Irida. Let's just utilize Boss's Orders to do it instead.
All right, so we have the boss now going to bring up, you know, something that you want to punch down. Now, do you think that there is going to be try to find a switch here into the Palkia, or just going to be another Moonlight Shuriken?
I mean, Hiroki would like to keep his energy on the Greninja to just threaten that, but the fact that Manaphy is down now, Hiroki may not play a card like Palpet to put Avery back so that Manaphy can just stay there as long as Kai wants to. It seems like the Greninja, it was good to have an energy on it, but oh wow, this is a very interesting line instead. It's going to bring the Sobble up and attach the energy to the active. Wow, are we going to see a Moonlight Shuriken just hit the active? Wow, just hitting the active.
The Sobble. Okay, so now Hiroki's trying to slow down Kai's plans by cutting off that Shady Dealings engine. This was something we speculated about a little bit earlier, Ethan. If your opponent can't dig through the deck to try to find those pieces to tie together the turn, maybe they don't have the stones to put together the attacks they want.
Yeah, well, that's it as well, but you're also attacking with a 1 prize Pokemon, so now the mapping gets a little bit harder for Kai. If you attack with the Palkia, okay, I'll knock it out and then knock out the last Palkia to take the prize cards, but now by attacking with the Greninja, it means that Kai may have to attack 3 times to win this game instead of 2, and with Hiroki at 4 prize cards, that could be a lot more doable of a situation, especially with 90 damage on that bench Palkia V. It means it'll be an easy target to be knocked out by Subspace Swell, and potentially, even if it doesn't evolve, an Aqua Bullet with a Choice Belt later on in the game.
Yep, has the Melanie, gets the energy attachment, drawing more cards. Looks like everything needed is already in the hand, so unfortunately the gambit of taking down the Shady Dealings is not going to buy Hiroki the time he needs. Moonlit Shuriken no longer on the table as a threat, but Shady Dealings and Teleon going to be sent into the active, and now it's back over to Hiroki, trying to claw back versus this threat. 2 damaged Palkia V-Stars in play are huge liabilities. Kai's victory is there here in the second game. He just needs to reach out and take it. Well, the cross switcher is assembled, so here's the switch. Palkia V going to be taken down. Is there enough on the bench? Looks like it.
Yeah, and I mean, Kai's victory seemed to be in a good spot after that prize penalty, but now with how things are looking, Hiroki has lined himself up to be in a spot to close this game out. The damage is still on that benched Palkia V. Cross Switcher can bring this up, and it looks like we are figuring out what's exactly is happening. I think Hiroki just had the pieces there to win. I'll be corrected if I'm mistaken, but I think we are going to a game 3 at this point. It seemed like Hiroki just had the pieces necessary to get there. We'll figure out exactly what's happening. Yeah, and there we go. Hiroki got it there. As you see, lined up the pieces, understood that my opponent maybe has no way to find Roxanne because there's no Sobbles in play. I can take the knockout on this, keep the damage on the bench Palkia. I've still got some cross switchers and gusting effects left. I'll bring it up when I want. I'll take those last 2 prize cards.
When we were kind of in that weird limbo, it was a point that we kind of talked about, Ethan, is that even with the prize cards, if you're behind, if your opponent's going to take those prizes, if you can somehow manipulate the board state so that you are the dominant one attacking and your opponent cannot get into a position to take those final prizes, then it's like you've already won. Hiroki able to make that happen and take us to a game 3. We had a lull, we had a nice little break, but now both players are just chomping at the bit, ready to jump into this third game and lock in that 4-0, building up even more momentum for the Swiss rounds.
Yeah, 2 things to point out. There was really good usage of Hiroki on utilizing 1 prize Pokemon to manipulate the prize mapping, essentially trying to make it a 7 prize game, or in this case, a 5 prize game instead of a 4 prize game. The other thing to note as well, time was paused, so we do still have 20 minutes left. Plenty of time to finish this game, so it means we may be avoiding ties, but this mirror, just like the Arceus mirror, can take some time. Kai prizing that Shady Dealings in Teleon. I mean, looking over at the list, looking at the cards that Kai has access to, does play
another
2
mulligan.
copies of the Shady Dealings in Teleon. And Kai, starting things off, going to have even more cards to work with mulligans. With the way this list is really organized, it only plays 1 Battle Pass, but listen, if you're going to go first and you're going to hit your 1 of Battle Pass with mulligans, there's no better feeling than being like, look, it loves me, it's coming to me every time. I'm going to find those Pokemon.
Another mulligan. This is so terrifying in the mirror match, having your opponent with 3 more cards to start with. That means they're going to have more opportunities to have that starting Palkia, having that starting energy attachment in a match like this. Another mulligan.
Wow.
This mirror, as we've seen in these last couple games, is based on your starting setup, based on your momentum, and now 4 extra chances of getting an explosive start.
Yeah, this is scaring me because it's very reminiscent
Another mulligan!
Oh my goodness.
We're going for a record here in day 1 in London.
Wow, yeah, this is something else. It gives me flashbacks of NAIC finals where you're like, surely Isaiah will set up with this many, but at this point, you've got to imagine that Kai is in a good spot to get things rolling, and this game is going to be looking at 4 extra cards plus the top deck. We'll see if there's basic. Okay, we've got one.
Let's go.
All right, we're going to play Pokemon, Adam. We're here to play. All right, prize cards coming out. We'll see what there is unavailable. Looks like having Melanie prize could be an issue. Echoing Horn and Choice Belt as well are key pieces, but having Inteleon prize I feel like is a little bit more of a liability of not having access to it. We are getting ready to jump into game number 3. Here we go, already kicking things off, and there it is. We're seeing the Hisuian Heavy Ball get played. That will get the Sobble out of the prize cards. A nice grab, a great feeling, and Capture Energy actually going to be the energy attachment for choice. Very interesting onto that. So maybe not being able to find too many Palkia with this opening hand. Capture Energy. Some players really prefer to play the Battle Pass instead of more counts of Battle Pass instead of Capture Energy. A lot of players are now leaning towards playing more Capture Energy again. It's just a card that can be played on any turn. Not as good as Battle Pass. You use your energy attachment for a turn. It's not a water energy. You also don't get to find 2 Pokemon like Battle Pass does. But the main thing that has going for it is it can be used at any point during the game. And let's see this hand. Oh boy, it's a Palkia party.
Let's go. Again, 5 extra cards from the mulligan to start off. Very high chance of getting this all set up. Capture energy also just allowing you to get that attachment to set up for Aqua Bullets, Moonlight Shuriken. Wow. So it's all looking fantastic. Has the 2 attackers, another Sobble. The setup has been completed by Kai. Now it's over to Hiroki. You've got to do the exact same thing with 5 less cards. Let's make it happen. Irida is the perfect way.
That is big. Hiroki had 2 poor starts to get things going in this game and finally gets a break, finding Irida to get out these pieces. With the things I've seen so far in Hiroki's deck, I believe is not playing the 4 copies of Irida, opting to maybe play the Avery instead of another copy of Irida, saying that it's worth it to play a supporter slot. Kai's hand looks incredible for next turn. We'll touch on that when things go back over, but Hiroki will finally be able to look through the deck, see if there is a card available. I actually think the Battle Pass may be prized, and the fact that the Battle Pass is in the prize cards means that Hiroki's not going to be able to get as explosive of a start on this first turn, and instead has to just grab the quick ball. That's going to mean even less power going into the second turn of the game.
That is so unfortunate. You have the 1 prize in there for this exact situation where you have the Irida to help you search it out, but now you've got to go into this potential setup. Again, such a strong opening from Kai with not having that high roll, that boost that you tried to build into the deck just in case.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about quick shooting Inteleon. It's in both players' decks, and Hiroki, because there's no Battle Pass, has to actually get rid of this quick shooting Inteleon, a card that could come into play later on this matchup. Here's a big concealed card. What does this find? It does find another Palkia, but there was already 1 in the hand. Wow, was that no Sobble in his hand? No, wow, no Sobble at all.
We have attackers. We have attackers, we have the Radiant Greninja, but no Sobble. And it looks like you've got the aggression, you've got some card draw, but without the utility to search for the missing pieces to truly tie your turns together and respond to what your opponent is doing, you're going to run out of gas.
Yeah, and Kai has the potential to knock out this Palkia this turn. If Kai can fill the bench up and attach a Choice Belt, it will be enough math to get the knockout, 230 damage. See if Kai ends up going for those plays. Really wants to utilize Melanie here as well. Not utilizing both, and you see drops down. Look what I've got. I've got both Palkia V-Star already in hand. Big 3 cards for Kai. Do we see something like a just find level ball? That could grab some pieces and get things going. There could still be another Drizzile utilized. Options are there, but more importantly, this Palkia can attack, and Star Portal has not been utilized yet for Kai.
There's the level ball, as you said. Going to find a way to fill up this bench even further. And now we just have to find, the Manaphy, again, respecting the Moonlit Shuriken.
Yeah, this is a smart choice to bench Manaphy. Usually, again, you don't want to bench 5 Pokemon in this matchup because that means a knockout can just occur with a quick shooting or a choice belt or some other ways to damage modify. But at this point, you realize Hiroki's engine is based off of Inteleon, just like your own. It's the mirror match. And with no access to that, it means that there's not going to be many cards here. And we are just going to see the Subspace Swell deal 200 damage, so just short of taking the knockout. This is not a big deal later on. Actually, if Kai wants to, the math is there. Kai can play the level ball, but I think there may have actually been an attack announcement accidentally, which would mean there's no other cards able to be played. Oh boy, we may be running into something again.
Oh man. But I mean, sometimes you get really excited and you know, you think the math is there and you're trying to calculate with both benches, but it's just going to go through. The Palkia V does survive. Is this the window of opportunity that Hiroki needs to hang on in this game? Responsive Melanie puts the water energy down, draws 3 cards. There's a rare candy. We saw the quick shooting Inteleon actually grabbed earlier, but no Sobble.
Yeah, and concealed cards can get rid of the capture energy, is not needed anymore. There is a Sobble in hand and a Palkia V-Star. It does have the attachment additionally, but you're just going to be swinging into this, and this will mean Kai will be able to take the first knockout onto a 2-prize Pokemon, and that can just be all the tempo you need. Rocks in or not, if you power up enough attackers and you're ahead on 2 prize cards, essentially a turn ahead attacking-wise, you put yourself in an excellent spot. Also does not have to utilize Star Portal. Melanie is a card that we've seen in a lot of water decks be very popular because you can just accelerate and power up attacks you normally wouldn't be able to without the help of that supporter card. But Star Portal sort of acts as a mini Melanie burst to just get a bunch of energy into play and say, hey, maybe one time I'm going to need like an extra attachment to get ahead of my opponent. Otherwise, I'm not. Sobble comes down. There's the knockout. And this actually opens up a huge line of play for Kai. The fact that Greninja is still available and the fact that this Palkia has 200 damage on it means that Moonlight Shuriken is in an excellent spot.
And basically, you know, Hiroki has to send up this Palkia V-Star just to get the damage through, knows that it's going to go down, and has to trust that I can get a Palkia V evolution. But instead, Kai going to chase with the cross switchers, going to keep this big damaged target, you know, in play to just collect those prize cards later on when it's a bit more convenient. Take down this Palkia V instead. Take down your opponent's backup attacker and try to work your way into a very strong position from this point. We've got the Shady Dealings Inteleon finding the scoop up net. Looking to find one more card, maybe that choice belt like you were talking about, Ethan. Trying to fix that math and get these big one-shots.
Yeah, this play is also good. You've got multiple routes when it comes to how you want to play this
Capacious
matchup.
Bucket.
Yeah, it does have Capacious Bucket. The main thing here is you can do the same thing, take the knockout, but you're still preserving Star Portal, and that is very good. Unless you want to just utilize it now, and it looks like that is going to be the grab. Utilizing the second Shady Dealings ability, and that is going to grab any trainer out of the deck, as per usually. I feel like I've said Shady Dealings hundreds and hundreds of times.
We all have.
Streams throughout the year.
It's Shady Dealings all over the place. It's a fantastic engine, and I thought I was going to get tired of it, but there's something just so satisfying about players being able to consistently perform their deck's game plans. It just cuts down on those non-games. I always want the players to be able to, you know, do their very best every single game, so you know that each win is incredibly earned. But here we go. We've got the energy attachment. One over onto the Radiant Greninja as well, thanks to that Star Portal.
Yeah, Path to the Peak comes down, so anytime you'll see Star Portal used in this matchup most of the time, we'll have that happen. So I believe Star Portal was utilized there, so that V-Star marker will have to be flipped, just to signify that that was used, so we'll get confirmation on that. We don't want multiple Star Portals. That would be a little broken if that was like a once per turn ability. You could just put three water energy on your board. That would be very strong. But Hiroki is playing an interesting card that a lot of players over in Japan have been playing, the Rare Candy. Allows you to skip a stage of evolution into something like the Shady Dealings or Quick Shooting Inteleon. And here we go.
Yeah, it's
there
so
it is.
massive.
Rare Candy Inteleon. And here we go. So, yep, that gets fixed up. Has a lot of cards to grab here. The choices are always feel endless when you're dealing with the Inteleon engine, but Cross Switcher being brought to the top means that Hiroki understands my opponent is already at 4 prize cards. I've got to respond with a knockout. If I don't here, there's not much else going on. But looking like grabbing the Avery, and this actually brings up a really interesting route. Kai's got a lot of options. You usually don't see this a lot, but if you discard a Pokemon, you also heal all the damage off of it as well. And while you do have to get rid of an attacker you've built up, sometimes it can just be worth it.
Yeah, so finds the Avery, finds a level ball. This is going to be really tricky, again, to take this risk. Do I want to get rid of this Palkia V? Am I realistically going to be able to take it down? The attacking is looking pretty thin. The Avery is played.
Yeah, so this is the choice now. And, oh, you see him hovering over
Yes.
that. Do I want to get rid of this Palkia? The other options aren't great. If you get rid of the Manaphy, if you get rid of the Manaphy, then the Greninja can knock out both Pokemon. And there it is. He's going to get rid of the entire Palkia V-Star. He powered up. It heals the damage off, but it also gets rid of that attacker. And
yeah,
oh boy,
the prizes there.
Hiroki seems pretty happy about that. Is there a way to get this knockout? No, we'll bench double Palkia, so there will be a Palkia online the following turn. Subspace Swell is currently dealing 220 damage. So the math is slowly getting there. Oh boy, that was a big-time card. Hiroki really showing us that, hey, maybe if you're worried about the mirror match, Avery may be the tech card you're looking for.
Yeah, and again, it seems like such a good play to say, okay, well, I can deny these 2 prizes to my opponent because it's already damaged. I know this Palkia V-Star is going to go down. And now Hiroki's saying, well, I've sort of, you know, done this gambit to make my opponent get rid of their next attacker, and I now have the pieces together to take down their main attacker. So if Hiroki's able to take down this Palkia V-Star in the active and Kai is too slow on setting up another attacker, this could be, you know, a repeat of what we saw in Game 2, where Hiroki has just worked into this incredibly dominant position of just attack into attack into attack, and Kai just can't keep up with that tempo.
Yeah, not grabbing Shady Dealings off the prize is a little bit of a miss. Things got rearranged with how things work, but this is really on to Kai now at this point. Or rather, looking at that before, Kai has not taken prize cards until the previous turn, but that option is now available. So even with that big-time Avery play, Kai going down to 2 prize cards is big. We haven't seen Roxanne played yet. We've had it hyped up. There's a lot of options going into it. You'd always feel scary to go to that 2 or 3 prize card range because then your opponent, now with the release of Astral Radiance, has a solid response as a supporter card. Kai understands at this point, listen, I've got a full bench of these Pokemon. I need an attacker for next turn. I also need a Sobble to be able to draw out of this here. Scoop Up Net is also excellent. It gives you now more outs to be able to find that. It gives you another Drizzile out to finding another trainer card to get out of potentially Roxanne. And there is the boss's orders. That is a big-time bring-up. It can target down this Palkia on the bench. And from there, Hiroki now has to build up another Palkia. Otherwise, it's going to be very easy for Kai to potentially take these last 2 prize cards. And here we go. We're at the climax of this game, Adam. Things are going to happen now. Things are about to get intense.
Game number 3. Both players playing their hearts out here in just the 4th round of Swiss. So many games left to go. But this is the moment of truth. 2 massively damaged, massively threatening Pokemon in the active spots for both players. Capacious Bucket finding a little bit of fuel for Radiant Greninja to use its Concealed Cards ability. Hopefully we can get that Path to the Peak out of the way first.
Yeah, Path to the Peak, shutting off the Greninja. We mentioned that in our break earlier, that Greninja
it is a rule box
so good
Pokemon.
that, since it is a rule box, you can only play. The rule of being only 1 in your deck means that you cannot use concealed cards, and there isn't really any hand disruption, but there is a Marnie in the hand. I think Hiroki is just debating, do I want to play down another bench Pokemon to put myself in range? Understands it really doesn't matter. My opponent has boss's orders. I lose the game regardless anyways. We will see the attachment and a big-time Marty. So this will put Kai at 4 cards, Hiroki at 5. Hiroki needs to find a way to bump this Path to the Peak. Otherwise, we'll be forced to just attack with this active Palkia, and all Kai needs is a single energy card, single water energy rather, and a Palkia V-Star, and the game is over. Let's see these cards.
I don't see
wow, finds Evolution Incense though, and Drizzile, but the Sobble came. Did the Sobble come down this turn?
The Manaphy I know came down.
The Manaphy came down, so the Sobble is available. So the Sobble can be evolved and grab the training cords. We'll have to see at this point. Have we seen the proper amount of cards drawn? We've seen that issue all throughout off of Marnie, so maybe there was an extra card drawn potentially. We'll take a look at the hand sizes and see. So it looks like there are 3 cards. It's so hard to tell, but we're discussing something else at this point. The game is slightly on pause as well. We'll get through this. It's been a journey, Adam, progressing through this match. We've had lots of highs, lots of lows. It's been a long one for sure.
Another example of the players just getting really excited. As you said, Ethan, this game is coming to a climax.
Yeah, we don't talk about this a lot, but being on stream is overwhelming a lot of the time. You're on the biggest stage of the year on World Championships. The nerves can start to kick in. A lot of these players, maybe it's their first time playing on stream.
Sometimes with Marnie as well, they just want you to randomize your hand a little bit more before it goes onto the bottom. And we've had some calls like that previously in the past, but for now, this is just giving the players, once again, another opportunity to think about their next handful of plays. How am I going to navigate this? And with this huge, again, liability, right? This Palkia V-Star has to carry the game, but if it goes down, that's Kai's final 2 prize.
That is the final 2 prizes, but everything seems to be resolved. Drizzile being played, and as we mentioned before, the crucial Training Court Stadium, the grab off of the Shady Dealings ability, and this will turn everything online. Concealed cards now online. Can bring an energy back and just draw 2 cards with it. Star Portal back online. The Palkia V-Star found as well. 2 cards being grabbed. Does find the Cross Switcher as well. And these are a big find for Hiroki. Not as good as Roxanne. Your opponent's going to have a few extra cards, but at this point, you can also make this play. This is very smart as well, bringing the Inteleon up, saying, hey, in order to win, not only do you have to power up Palkia up and find the modifiers, but now, instead, you've got to find a gusting effect with only access to 2 Sobble and no energy in play. We'll have the guaranteed energy because of the training court, and here we go. Don't know these cards yet for Kai. Can bring the Greninja up. It is a free pivot. What does the hand look like? Does have, there's not much. Does the top deck, has the Palkia V-Star, has the Choice Belt, but there's an Evolution Incense. If this Evolution Incense can find something like an Irida, if there's Cross Switcher still left in the deck, that could be all there's needed. Does still have access to concealed cards. That is a potential option online. will bring the energy back with the training court, and the evolution instance will get played. So we'll have a good peek at the deck. Is there an option like double cross-switcher? And there is the double cross-switcher option available. If this can grab the Drizzile, Drizzile can find Irida. I think the cards are there. Kai has it. Kai, playing the Drizzile, can search out, or thinking about it, yeah. But if Drizzile can get played, this can search out the Irida. Let's see, that is the choice.
Yeah, just again, when everything is coming to a head and you've already had a judge penalty assigned, you need to make sure everything is staying clean, but the sequence that you predicted is there.
There it
Irida,
is.
The Drizzile finding the Irida, finding the Shady Dealings in Teleon as well with the rare candy.
There it is. Yep, has all the pieces. There's the rare candy for the Inteleon. Double cross-switcher getting grabbed. We see the Palkia V-Star in hand. Double cross-switcher, bring up the Palkia V-Star. Attachment for turn, energy, and the choice belt. Subspace Swell taking the knockout after a long series of games. Kai comes out victorious, moving to 4-0.
Beautiful game number 3. This was a rare occasion in the mirror match where we got to see every single individual mini combo and strategy that this deck is capable of. And now we fully understand why Palkia V-Star is one of the best decks in the current format. And after a long set going to game 3, we saw everything once again that it had to offer.
Yeah, Palkia is a powerful deck. It's a powerhouse. When it gets set up, it can hit the best numbers in the format. It has great synergy with one of the best Radiant Pokemon in the format, and that was all on display. Great match to see. Congratulations again to Kai. 2 wins away from punching a ticket into day number 2. It is such an accomplishment to make day 2 at an event like this. So many players, I believe 500